Upgrade to vSphere. Okay, this is going to be a very cool module because a lot of you are going to be upgrading from a virtual infrastructure 3 environment to vSphere. This module will show you the different steps and scenarios that you can use or follow in order to upgrade your environment properly. So the first thing we're going to take a look at are the upgrade steps. It's very important to follow these steps the way they're listed here in order to have a successful upgrade. And I'll show you during the demonstration piece of this module how we're going to go through these different steps. Now the first step is to upgrade Virtual Center to vCenter Server. Now this is important because you want to be able to ensure backward compatibility to your ESX3.x hosts. If you go out and install ESX or upgrade ESX3 to ESX4, then the existing Virtual Center will be unable to read it, will be unable to see that host. So it's important to first upgrade to vCenter Server, and while you're doing that, upgrade the different components like Update Manager, Converter, Guided Consolidation, etc. And then you can upgrade the VI client to vSphere client, and then we can go through the ESX and the virtual machine upgrades. Now, as part of Virtual Center upgrade, once you upgrade to vCenter Server, you have to keep in mind that because you're upgrading and you have older hosts, you want to maintain the license server. So, and I mentioned this because some of you are going to want to install vCenter on a fresh server, and I'll talk about that once we bring up the vCenter slide here. But if you're installing the Virtual Center or vCenter on a fresh server, then you want to make sure you install the license server in order to provide backward compatibility to those ESX3 hosts. Otherwise, they wouldn't be licensed. So Virtual Center to vCenter Server goes first. The second will be you want to upgrade the VI client to vSphere client, and that's a very simple process. Now some of you are going to ask, well, what if I have different clients on different machines? So on your Virtual Center server, if you want to upgrade the client on that, you can use the wizard as part of the auto run, and I'll show you during the demonstration how to do that. But regardless, once you've upgraded to vCenter, any user that has the VI client installed on their desktop or laptop, workstation, whatever the case might be, that tries to access Virtual Center is automatically going to detect that they're using the VI client, and it's going to prompt them to upgrade to vSphere. And the vSphere client upgrade is very straightforward. It's a couple of clicks. Now, step number 3, what we're going to do is we're going to upgrade Update Manager, and we're going to update Converter and Guided Consolidation. These are the 3 components of Virtual Center, and then we'll move on to upgrading ESX and ESXi hosts, and finally we'll upgrade the VMware tools and the VM hardware on the virtual machines. So as far as Virtual Center is concerned, when you want to go from Virtual Center to vCenter, there are certain prerequisites that you need to keep in mind. First of all, it's going to require Virtual Center downtime. Now, when I say Virtual Center downtime, this will not affect your virtual machines or your hosts, but the Virtual Center server itself will be bounced once or twice. So if anyone is trying to access Virtual Center for any kind of administrative purposes, it will not be available. So it's very important when you want to go through this exercise to make sure that everyone that has Virtual Center access knows not to log in, and that there's an upgrade in progress so they don't surprised when they can't access this. So there will be downtime for Virtual Center. Now the second thing you want to do is if you're upgrading Virtual Center to a 64-bit operating system, a lot of you might be in the process of going from Windows 2003 to Windows 2008 R2. Now Windows 2008 R2 is a 64-bit operating system. You can't have Windows 2008 R2 in 32-bit. The only thing you can have is Windows 2008 as a 32-bit operating system. But since Microsoft isn't going to be releasing any more 32-bit operating systems as far as the server is concerned, what's the point? If you're going to Windows 2008, in my opinion, might as well go to 64-bit unless there are some applications that won't support it. For that matter, stay on 2003. But regardless, if you're going to a 64-bit operating system like Windows 2008 for Virtual Center, your ODBC connection still needs to be a 32-bit connection. You cannot use the 64-bit ODBC or DSN to connect to the database, otherwise it won't work. So once you've installed Windows 2008 R2, for example, you can go into the Windows directory, the syswow64, run the ODBC 32.exe or run the ODBC AD32.exe application in order to create your DSN as a 32-bit DSN and successfully connect to the database server. Before I talk about upgrading to a different virtual center server, let's talk about making sure that you have your SQL server or Oracle server, whatever the database server that you're using, make sure it's backed up properly before you try to go through this upgrade process. And make sure you have the ODBC credentials, because during the virtual center upgrade, you are going to be prompted, hey, what is the ODBC credentials for this DSN? So you want to be sure to have those ready. Now, after a virtual center server has been upgraded successfully, and before you upgrade Update Manager and Converter, I need to stress the point here that you need to go into Add Remove Programs and uninstall all the Update Manager client extensions and all the Converter client extensions. Now keep in mind also when you're uninstalling these that you might have 2 or 3 of them in the list, and the reason for that is every time you went from like ESX 3.5 to ESX 3.5 update 1, update 2, 3, 4, 5, every one of those updates will now have an entry in Add Remove Programs. So the client extensions will all need to be removed before you can go ahead and install the Update Manager or upgrade the Update Manager Converter. Guided Consolidation does not have an extension, so you don't have to worry about that. Now, if you're installing or if you want to use a different virtual center server during this upgrade, the way to do that is obviously you're going to go in, you're going to install your operating system. You want to create, if you're using 64-bit operating system, then you're going to use the command that's on screen now to create the ODBC connection. If you're using 32-bit, then you just do it the standard way. And then you just point the ODBC and the DSN connection to the SQL database and move on with the upgrade that way. And make sure if you still have ESX 3 hosts, you install a licensed server. Now, considering I've done a few upgrades recently, here's what I'm going to recommend. If you want to go to a different server, I wouldn't go to a different server right away. What I would do is I would stay on the existing server, I would upgrade that, upgrade Virtual Center, keep the licensed server on that, and wait until the whole environment is upgraded. Once you have all of your ESX hosts up to ESX 4, then go back and move the Virtual Center server to a new server. That way you don't have to install any other components. So you don't have to install the licensing component. You're going to a fresh server. The database schema has already been upgraded. All you would have to do is install Virtual Center, point it to the existing database server which has already been upgraded, and voila, you're done. You don't have to install any other components. So I would leave that to the end, but that's just my advice. Alright, now let's take a look at Update Manager. And I mentioned that with Update Manager, obviously you also want to make sure you get a good backup of the database. You need the ODBC credentials, and you need to uninstall the Update Manager client extensions from the Virtual Center server if that's where you installed them. ESX, ESXi upgrade. The first thing you need to know here is that the host obviously is going to require downtime. It's going to see a couple of reboots. You want to put the host in maintenance mode. So if you're trying to upgrade a production environment and you have vMotion enabled, one of the options that you can do is vMotion all of running production virtual machines or non-production virtual machines off of that host to a different host, put the host in maintenance mode, run the upgrade. Another way would be to obviously power down all the virtual machines and run the upgrade that way while everything is powered down. Now you have to keep in mind here that if you're going from ESX to ESXi, that will destroy the data store. So if you're changing the version or the addition of ESX from ESX to ESXi, then you can't have any powered down virtual machines because that will destroy the data store. But if you're simply upgrading, then you can keep the virtual machines in a powered down state, upgrade the host that way. Now you can do the upgrade in many different ways. The easiest way, and that's what we're going to go and show you during the demonstration, is going to be use the host upgrade utility. It's a GUI interface, very cool. You can obviously still use command line interface as well. You can use Update Manager, etc., etc. The upgrade is going to take 15 to 25 minutes depending on the type of server, how fast it is, how long it takes to reboot, etc., etc. I've seen DL580s that take a lot of time to reboot, so that might slow down the upgrade process. Now, as far as the data stores are concerned, if you are on VMFS 3, which means if you're using ESX or Virtual Infrastructure 3 and above, then there will be no data store upgrade. If you're coming from an earlier version, then yes, you will obviously have to do. Finally, we have the VM upgrade, the virtual machine upgrade, and this needs a little bit of planning. So typically when we're going through an upgrade, first phase isn't very production intrusive. For example, you can do it over a weekend where you're upgrading Virtual Center, all the components. It won't affect anyone in production. You're just taking the necessary precautions and doing it over the weekend. You can upgrade your ESX host that way as well, since you can vMotion stuff off, so you won't affect performance. However, when it comes time for the virtual machines, you are going to need to plan ahead and make sure everybody is aware that we will need a certain time frame in order to bring down those virtual machines, because we have to upgrade the VMware tools on them. We also have to upgrade the VM's actual hardware, so it will require 2 or 3 reboots per virtual machine. Now, once you've planned that and everybody is okay, you're doing it over a maintenance weekend. The way to do this is you have to first upgrade the VMware tools. You can't upgrade the virtual hardware first. It's imperative that you upgrade the VMware tools first in order to preserve all the network connectivity settings, etc., etc. So VMware tools go first, virtual machine hardware goes second. And we're going from virtual machine hardware 4 to virtual machine hardware 7. Now, you can upgrade in 2 different ways. You can have an automated upgrade using Update Manager and update most of your VMs in one shot instead of having to go through this process one at a time. Or you can do a manual update where you can take one virtual machine at a time, install the VMware tools on it, and then shut it down, upgrade the hardware, etc., etc. Alright, let's not waste any more time. Enough of these presentation. Alright, so let's go through this upgrade. So I've copied my files, the necessary files, on the D drive in a folder called VC. And I'm going to go ahead and double click on Auto Run here to kickstart the wizard. And let's go ahead and close this since we're not going to be using it for a while. And as I mentioned during the presentation, the first thing we're going to go through the upgrade for is going to be Virtual Center Server. So I'm going to go ahead and click on vCenter Server. Click on OK. And the wizard here is going to take a few minutes to initialize and get everything ready. And away we go. We're going to click on Next to start here. We're going to accept the license agreement as if we had a choice. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to leave the license key blank and use the eval license. So I'm going to click on Next to continue. Now this is where you enter the SA username and password for the database that you're trying to upgrade. Now in my case, I'm trying to upgrade an existing virtual center database. So you want to make sure you remember the SA, or in your case it might be a different username and password that you used originally when you were creating the ODBC connection for your current virtual center server. This is where you enter that credential so it can authenticate to it and initialize an upgrade. So I'm going to go ahead and enter my password here. I'm going to click on Next. So this warning, it's telling you that basically found 2 extensions that are installed on Virtual Center: VMware Update Manager and VMware Converter Enterprise for Virtual Center. Now we're going to talk about these in a second here after we're done, but what I want to, this warning just mentions that it found them and that there are some necessary precautions that need to be taken. We understand that. We're going to click on OK. Now in this case, we want to upgrade an existing Virtual Center Server database. You have to acknowledge that you've taken the necessary steps, as in backing it up and taking the necessary precautions before you go ahead and upgrade the database. I'm going to click on Next. For the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to use the system account. Feel free to change it if you need to for your environment. I'm going to leave all of the ports at the default. And we are going to go ahead and install. And you'll notice here that upgrading database has already kicked in. This will take a few minutes. It could take anywhere up to 20 minutes depending on the size of the database, the type of networking, and the type of environment you have. And voila, that's all there is to it. So we're going to click on Finish. This completes the upgrade of Virtual Center and its database. And now the second thing we want to do here is we want to go through and upgrade our vSphere, or our virtual infrastructure client, to vSphere client. So we're going to click on the vSphere client. Click on OK. Now for those of you that are wondering, if you have the vSphere client or the VI client deployed on multiple machines, you don't have to do this. Once you try to log on to Virtual Center and it notices that you're using a VI client, it will automatically prompt you to upgrade to the vSphere client. But for the purposes of just following the necessary steps during the presentation, I'm just going to go ahead and upgrade that. But if I can cancel out of here and go ahead and double click on the icon, and it will prompt me automatically to upgrade. So we're going to click on Next. I'm going to accept the license agreement and click on Next. We are going to install the vSphere host update utility so that after the installation and the upgrade of Virtual Center and Update Manager and all the components, we want to also upgrade ESX. So this utility is going to help us do that. We're going to click on Next, and we're going to click on Install. And that's it for the vSphere client. We're going to click on Finish, and we're back to this screen. Now, before you install Update Manager and Converter, there's a few things that you need to take into consideration. You need to remove, via Add Remove Programs, the Update Manager client and the Converter client. So what we're going to do here is let's go see what I have in my Add Remove Programs. I'm going to click on Start. Let's drag up here to Settings. Let's go into Control Panel. We're going to go into Add Remove Programs. And we're going to scroll down to VMware. So in my case, I have the VMware Converter Enterprise client, which I need to uninstall. And there it is right here. So I'm going to go ahead and select it, and I'm going to click on Remove. Now, I don't have the Update Manager client installed. I didn't have the extensions registered within this Virtual Center. Now, the only thing that I want to caution is, as you've upgraded using on 3.5 from just 3.5 to then update 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., you'll notice that in your Add Remove Programs, you have the VMware Converter client for update 1, update 2, 3, 4, 5, and the same thing for Update Manager. So you want to make sure you remove all of those before you actually go ahead and upgrade your Update Manager and your Converter. So that now that I don't have anything else, I'm going to exit out of this window here. We're going to close out of here, and then we are going to go ahead and update Manager. Update Manager. Click on it, kickstart the wizard. Obviously, you're going to get a warning that a previous version of Update Manager exists. Click OK to upgrade it. We're going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to click on Next to start the wizard here. We're going to accept the license agreement as usual. I've entered the IP address of Virtual Center, and we're going to give it an administrator username and password so it can authenticate to it. So I'm doing that for my Virtual Center. And again, you're going to need the SA username and password, or the ODBC username and password. In my case, it's SA. In your case, it might be something else. For the ODBC connection that was used originally to configure your original Update Manager. So in my case, I'm using SA, and I'm going to enter the password. Kind of the same procedure as upgrading a Virtual Center server. I'm going to accept that my existing database is currently set to the full recovery model. Feel free to change that if you like. We're going to click on OK. And I want to upgrade this instance, and yes, I have taken a backup. And this is my Virtual Center server here, default ports. I'm going to leave all of those at the default. Now here's where you could select the checkbox to configure some proxy settings to get access to the internet. In my case, I'm just going to leave it at default. Click on Next, and let's kickstart the install. And that's it. We're going to click on Finish. And now we're going to go ahead and do the same thing for Converter and Guided Consolidation. I'm going to click on OK. Converter and Guided Consolidation upgrade will go much faster, as in there is no database to upgrade in this case. It's just installing and upgrading the existing software. So we're going to go through that real quick. You're basically being prompted to upgrade. We're going to say yes. And let's bring down this window down here. I'm going to click on Next. We're going to accept the license agreement. We're going to go with typical for the purposes of this demonstration. I've entered my Virtual Center IP address, and now I need to enter a password, a username and password, so that it can connect Converter to it. We're going to keep the default ports here. We're going to click on Next. It found our Virtual Center, so we're going to keep that and click on Next and install. And that's it. It's very simple. We're going to click on Finish. And the last component that we're going to upgrade here, as far as Virtual Center and its components are concerned, is going to be Guided Consolidation. This upgrade's been kind of smooth. Wouldn't you guys agree? Typically, something always goes wrong, so that's a good thing. We're going to click on OK. Close the background window here. We're going to click on Next to start. And we don't have a choice with this one. We've accepted that so many times. And here it's prompting you for the Virtual Center Collector Services component. What do you want to associate with it? For the purposes of this example, I'm gonna use the administrator. In your environment, you can feel free to change the username and password. We're going to click on Next. We're going to keep all the default ports. And here we're going to give it the IP address of our Virtual Center server. We're going to keep the default port. Again, we're going to give a username and password. Click on Next. It found our Virtual Center, so we're going to click on Next to continue and install. And that's it for guided consolidation. We're going to click on Finish. And this concludes the upgrade of Virtual Center and all of its components and the vSphere client. So now what we're going to focus on is we're going to actually log into our Virtual Center server, and we're going to install the extensions to Update Manager and to Converter. So we've logged into Virtual Center. We're going to go up here to where it says Plugins, and we're going to select Manage Plugins. And you'll notice towards the bottom here it shows the available plugins, and then you have the installed plugins up top. So for the available plugins, I'm going to start with Converter Enterprise. So I'm going to click on Download and Install. We're going to click on OK. Next to start. This license agreement won't leave us alone today. And that's all there is to it for the plugin. Now we're going to do the same thing for Update Manager. Click on OK. I'm going to click on Next again. And that's it. We're going to accept the certificate here, or you can go ahead and ignore it as I'm going to do. This is going to automatically associate Update Manager with Virtual Center. It's doing it over SSL, so it'll need a certificate. And you'll notice that now everything is installed. As far as I'm concerned, I have no more available plugins, so I'm going to go ahead and close. And you'll see that it automatically added the guided consolidation here, and you also have Update Manager as far as solutions and applications are concerned. Alright, so from here on, what we're going to do next is we're going to go ahead and upgrade an ESX host from 3.5 to 4.0, and then we're going to go through the process of upgrading the virtual machines, VMware tools, and we're also going to upgrade the virtual hardware on them. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of Virtual Center here. Now we want to upgrade our ESX hosts. Now the first thing you want to do before you touch an ESX 3.5 host is you want to make sure it's in maintenance mode. You've evacuated all your virtual machines off of it, especially the ones that you want to make sure that stay online. So the way you would upgrade your environment, if you didn't want to take everything down and just do it over a long weekend where everything is down, you could do this in stages. You can take your VMs off of a production ESX host, vMotion all of them over to another host that you have in the environment, put the host that you want to upgrade in maintenance mode, upgrade this host, move the virtual machines back to this host, and then upgrade the other one, and so on and so forth. So in this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and upgrade an ESX 3.5 host to ESX 4, and we're going to use the host update utility. The host update utility is located in the Start, Programs, VMware, and we're going to scroll down here to where it says vSphere host update utility. Now you'll notice this warning here, or it's not a warning, it's more of an information that it needs to connect to the internet, download the necessary patches, etc. I'm going to say yes to it. And after that's completed, there's an auto discovery of some of your ESX hosts that are in the environment. In the event that you don't see the ESX host that you want to upgrade, you can always click on Add Host and then enter either the host name, fully qualified domain name, or the IP address. For the purposes of this exercise, what we're going to do is we're going to select 10.12.99.150, and we're going to click down here to where it says Upgrade Host. We're going to select the image that we want to upgrade to. So in my case, I'm upgrading to ESX4, so I'm going to select this ISO image. I'm going to click on Next. We're going to accept this license agreement that won't leave us alone today. We're going to click on Next. Now we're going to enter the root username and password for the server. Now keep in mind here, it's trying to upgrade ESX4, so it needs access to the actual console of this server, so we're going to give it the root username and password. We're going to click on next. Okay, now here it's asking you where do you want to install this upgrade. Now keep in mind, in your production environment, if you're upgrading hosts that are attached to SANs, then all of your LUNs are going to be listed here. So you want to make sure you select local storage. If originally you installed your ESX on local storage, which is most of the cases, you want to make sure you select that particular partition where you installed ESX. Now if you've installed ESX on a different partition, you want to make sure you select that as well. In my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select storage 1. I'm going to click on next. Now here it's asking you what do you want to do in the unlikely event that the upgrade isn't successful. Now I'm going to keep attempt to reboot host and rollback upgrade in case of failure. I'm going to leave that. If you had any post upgrade scripts that you wanted to run, this would be the place to put them. You can browse to your scripts, etc. I'm going to leave this as defaults, and I'm going to click on next and finish. Now this will take a good 15 to 20 minutes depending on your environment to upgrade ESX, reboot it once or twice, and bring it back online. You see, it's very straightforward, very simple. Especially this host update utility makes it very graphical user interface, so you didn't have to use any type of command line as was the case when we were upgrading, say, from 3.0 to 3.5 or 3.0 to 3.02, for example. This makes it really, really easy to upgrade your ESX hosts. Alright, and that's all there is to it. The ESX 3.5 has been upgraded to ESX 4, and you'll notice here that the product name has changed to VMware ESX 4 and the build number. Now you can go ahead and view the log if you want, or you can click on OK to exit. I'm going to click on OK to exit here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to exit out of here. We're going to log into Virtual Center, and we're going to exit out of maintenance mode as far as this host is concerned. And that's it. This host goes back into production and on to the next host. Again, you vMotion your virtual machines, you're running virtual machines onto this newly upgraded host, and then you take down the other one for an upgrade. So let's go ahead and log into Virtual Center and now take a look at how we're going to upgrade the VMware tools and the virtual hardware on our virtual machines. Alright, so we're back inside Virtual Center. Now the first thing I want to double check is, like I said, we took ESX01 out of maintenance mode, and as you can see here, the version of ESX has now changed to ESX4. So we have our hosts updated, our Virtual Center and all of its components updated. Next thing we want to do is we need to upgrade the virtual machine tools and the virtual machine hardware. Now it's very important, and I mentioned this during the lecture, it's very important that you go through the steps here. You have to install the VMware tools first. Do not install or upgrade the virtual hardware of the VM before you install or upgrade the VM tools. By upgrading the VM tools first, it installs a service that keeps the network settings from being lost, etc., etc. So it's imperative that you go through the upgrade of the VMware tools before you upgrade the VM hardware. Now let's expand this host here for a little bit and take a look at an individual virtual machine. You'll notice in the summary tab here that the VMware hardware version is version 4 and we need it to be at version 7, and you'll also notice that the VMware tools are out of date. Now we're going to do two exercises. We're going to remedy this using Update Manager in an automated fashion, and then we're also going to do this manually. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to go to the VMs and templates, and we are going to use some hotkeys here. And let's pick on one of these virtual machines. Let's select this virtual machine, for example. And we're going to go to Update Manager. We are going to attach a baseline. So I'm going to right click here, I'm going to click on Attach, and I'm going to select both upgrade, the VMware Tools upgrade and the VM hardware upgrade. We're going to click on Attach here, and you're going to notice in a second if I try to scan this and when I scan, I don't want to do patches and I don't want to do anything else. I just want to scan for VMware Tools upgrade and VMware hardware upgrade to see if this machine is adhering to these or if it needs to be upgraded. So I'm going to scan it here, and you'll notice that both of them came back as needing to be upgraded. You have a big red square on the right here. So we're going to select to remedy this by clicking on here. We're going to select the upgrade baseline, and as you can see, we're going to start with a tools upgrade. Click on next. Here's where you get to give it a title name if you need to. If you want to make sure this is run at a different time, this is here where you can configure this. For the purposes of this demonstration, we're just going to leave everything at default. We're going to click on Next. Now you have the ability here of snapshotting the virtual machine if you want to make sure everything goes okay first. So in my case, I'm going to keep the image for 18 hours, then I'm going to let it delete it. I'm also going to snapshot the memory for this virtual machine. We're going to click on Next. Now before we finish, I just want to make sure I stress one thing. So far, the upgrade process has been kind of non-intrusive. You could have done this during production or on weekends where you didn't, the virtual machines could stay up. Even the virtual center upgrade would not have affected virtual machine being powered on or off. But this phase of the upgrade, you need downtime. You need to do this over a weekend, over a maintenance weekend, call it, but there will be interruption. There will be several reboots to the virtual machine. So you want to make sure you have a maintenance window scheduled with the business units because there will be downtime for this phase. So here you can select or you can view which upgrade is going to take place, and you'll notice that it's VMware Tools upgrade to match the host. We're going to click on Finish, and we're going to let it run through the upgrade of VMware Tools. Alright, so now you'll notice that the VMware Tools have been upgraded with a check mark here. Now we're going to select the same thing for the hardware upgrade. I'm going to remediate. Next, immediately, we're going to keep this for another 18 hours. We're going to snap the memory. Finish. And there you go. You're going to notice that there are 2 check marks. It's all green across the board. Now let's go into the Summary tab. And you'll notice that the VMware hardware version has been upgraded to 7. The VMware tools are now showing OK, which means they are up to date. Now you can do this one at a time if you like, or you can save yourself a little bit of a time, and if you took my advice earlier on and you organized your virtual machines inside of folders, then there's no reason why you can't attach a baseline to a folder and upgrade all of the virtual machines that are inside of a folder. Now you'll notice here that I have a folder called VM Upgrades. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Update Manager tab here. But before we do that, you'll notice that I have 3 virtual machines under this folder. So I'm going to right click in here to attach the baseline. And the baseline that we want is the VMware Tools upgrade and the VMware Hardware upgrade. We're going to click on Attach. And now we can click on Scan. And we're going to scan again for hardware and VMware Tools. Then you'll notice that the scan came back with a big red circle, which means they are not up to date. These are the virtual machines that are within the group. We're going to click on Remediate here to go ahead and remediate them all. Next, we're going to do it immediately. We're going to snapshot this for 18 hours. We're also going to snapshot the memory, and we're going to do this right now. Now while this process is taking place, let's pick on another server and go through the manual install. So I'm going to select MPCTX Util 01 here. I'm going to right click on it, and we're going to go ahead and click on the Open Console. Now who remembers how I can initiate Control-Alt-Delete within the console here? Yeah, it's Control-Alt-Insert, and there we are. So now we're going to click on VM up here, and we're going to drag down to where it says Guest, and we're going to do Install Upgrade VMware Tools. You can choose to do the interactive where it prompts you for every step, or you can do the automatic tools upgrade. I'm going to select automatic tools upgrade. I'm going to click on OK. It's rebooting this virtual machine to finish up the VMware Tools upgrade. And here it is. So VMware Tools have been upgraded. I'm going to close out of the console. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to right click on the util here, and we're going to power it off in order to do the hardware upgrade. So I'm going to do a shutdown of the guest. I'm going to select yes. Now once it's powered off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to scroll down here to where it says upgrade virtual hardware. Now you'll notice that this option wouldn't be available if your virtual machine is turned on. Now you have the warning message here to confirm. We're going to click on yes. Now we're going to select MPCTX Util 01, and you'll notice that the VM version is now 7, so the hardware version has been upgraded. The VMware Tools says not running, but as soon as I power this baby on, it will check with VMware Tools, and you'll notice that it's now up to date. And there you go. Now it says VMware Tools OK. Now let's go back into our VM Upgrades folder and see where we're at with the VMware upgrade tools for those 3 virtual machines that we have. So let's go ahead and click on the VMware upgrades folder here, and you'll notice that the VMware upgrade or the VMware tools upgrade has been completed. So we have the yellow circle here. Now let's go ahead and remediate the rest. We're going to click on remediate again, and now we're going to select the hardware portion of this. Next, we want to hold the snapshot for 18 hours. We're going to snap the memory, finish. And voila, you'll notice that we have the big green circle, which means the upgrades all went successful. And if you look down here, you'll notice that you have all 3 virtual machines. A little bit to the right, it'll tell you how many upgrades happened. So we have 2 upgrades. We had the tools and we upgraded the hardware, the VMware hardware. And we have checkboxes next to all of them, which means all of the virtual machines that are in that folder were automatically upgraded. Now this is an easy way for you to take a lot of virtual machines, not have to do the steps either manually or do it one at a time with Update Manager. You throw them in a folder, you upgrade the whole folder, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. This brings us to the end of this module, folks. I hope it has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.